Let me tell you who does not need Vagisil, and that's Travis.
Absolutely.
I mean, who fights with his finger bone showing? Travis, really quick, how bad? I mean, did you see your bone? What's up with that last fight with your finger? And I believe that shit happened in the first round?
Yeah, it happened in the first minute. So, you know how, like, when you're out with the boys, having some beers, eating some wings, fucking they're delicious.
Yes.
You suck the meat off the bone.
Yes.
And there's like that chicken bone that has, I don't know how to explain it. It looks like almost like a Y. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's two big side on the side, and then there's that middle part that's kind of lower where you could see like maybe a tendon or something like that going through there.
Yeah.
Dude, that's exactly what I saw. You know what I mean? I looked down and my bone is sticking out of my freaking finger, and I'm just like, time out, guys. Time out. Can we take a quick break real quick? I need to figure out what the fuck's going on with my finger. You know what I mean? And I know you're not supposed to do that in the fight, and maybe they should have called it. I don't freaking care, and I don't know. That wasn't my job.
It was just a reaction from you in that moment.
Yeah, dude. I'm a human being,
right?
And it was a reaction. You know what I mean? And to this day, I won't forget the feeling of, you know, after that when I was on the mat with Werdum, I'm trying to get up. I can feel the bone coming through the skin, rubbing on the canvas. It felt like sandpaper. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? And then when he's trying to choke me, I'm defending by putting my hand over his wrist and his forearm and stuff, trying to pull it down. And I can feel like the hairs going into the, you know what I mean? It's just like that weird sensation that not many people have ever had that before, but if you can imagine it, you know.
Well, people were saying during the fight, Matt, if you remember, people were saying like, yeah, Travis Browne doesn't look like himself. And then after people realized the injury you had, people were like, Jesus Christ, what a tough son of a bitch to have actually gone through that fight to a decision.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's what we do. You know what I mean? I mean, I just needed a second to kind of get my shit together. You know what I mean? But, you know, and I know that, you know, again, the fight probably should have been called, but it was just a reaction. And, you know, I'm glad that they gave it to me that way I can go out there and at least give it a shot. You know, it's like, what do you do? You know, but, you know, that's what we do. You know, that's what we're fighters. You know what I mean? We're crazy as it is. So.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, we're all, obviously we're all a little nuts to be fighting in that cage, but that's not what everybody does. I'll tell you right now, you're being very humble about this. There's a lot of guys that straight up look for a way out of there, and some guys are just, look, man, all right, the choke is close enough. I'll just chalk it up as I tried. You could have used that. You could have used that as a legit out.
That's right.
And you didn't. And I'll tell you right now, I'm telling you right now, a lot of people would have used that as an ounce. So I give you a lot of respect for that, Travis.
I appreciate it, man.
That shit's fucking actually crazy. That story, the way you put that story, and it started off so great. I was actually licking my lips. You're doing, you know, those delicious buffalo wings. You're out with your friends, and he kept. It did a drastic turn, and now I'm getting queasy.
Yeah, man. I mean, but that's exactly what it was. Like I looked down. And I see like that the top of that chicken bone, and then my tendon was like wrapped straight over it, like you think it would be. And that's why, like, if you look at some of the pictures, the first part of my finger, it was like curved over, kind of like a hook, and it's because it was a dislocation. So it wasn't even a break; it was a dislocation from the first two parts of my finger. That the first two parts were sitting over on top of the first part of my finger. And so it was making my finger kind of go down like a hook, and I couldn't bend my finger. You know what I mean? And when I looked down, it was just like that. It was like a chicken bone, seriously, with the white tendon wrapped over, and it was super tight. You know what I mean? It was the weirdest.
So, and you said this happened in the first minute?
First minute of the first round,
so let's review the night for you. You start off, you got a 300-pound Brazilian jump up and kick you in the chin.
Yeah, fuck.
And then you
fucking guy. I know the nerve of him.
And then you take that like a champ, and then within the first minute you got your bone sticking through. Talk about a rough night.
Yeah, you know, and to top it all off, it's against the fucking jackass like Werdum. You know what I mean?
You guys had some issues.
That's right, you guys don't like
I just don't like the guy. I don't think he's a good dude. You know what I mean? He just, you know, he does one thing for the public, and behind closed doors, he's another way. So, you know, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not trying to spread rumors about him, but I have my own personal feelings about the guy, and I just don't like him. You know what I mean? So So it's just one of those things where it's like, for me, I just, I don't like him. You know what I mean? I don't respect him like as a dude, as a man, and I respect him as a fighter, but other than that, that's as far as it goes.
Travis, what happened at the end too? Because I actually forgot until you just said that him and Edmond had a little thing at the end of that. Was that something Werdum said that he didn't like, or did Edmond say something to him? Because we weren't in the ring.
That's right.
Yeah. So I guess what happened is, like, after the fight, the crowd was booing because it was a shitty fight, dude. I hate those. I hate being a part of those fights. I'm sitting there with a bone sticking out of my finger. I'll tell you what, if my opponent had a bone sticking out of his hand like that, I would have finished the motherfucker, right? Like, dude, I know he's out of it. He ain't got his right hand. I'm gonna finish him. I hate being a part of like just a shitty fight like that. So, after the fight, the crowd was booing. With they should, you know what I mean? It was a shitty fight. Well, I guess Werdum was doing like, kind of like the crybaby thing, like to his eyes with his knuckle. You know what I mean? How they that thing.
Sure.
And I guess Edmond thought he was doing it towards me. So Edmond said to him, why don't you have some fucking respect? You know what I mean? For the guy that you just fought. And all of a sudden, Werdum squares up and push kicks Edmond. And he's like, I thought he was going to come after me. He's a fighter. He's a accomplished kickboxer. And he had that look in his eye that he was going to come after me. It's like, God, buddy, what the fuck? He's telling you to have some fucking respect. And then it gets turned around because that jackass gets the mic, at post-fight press conference and, whatever. But.
So you don't like him as a person. Did you ever see the video of him kicking the reporter in the leg?
No.
There's one too where as a fan of UFC, I've interviewed a lot of fighters and had them show me moves just to see where certain things feel like, because it's pretty impressive what you guys deal with.
Sure.
But they're always taking it easy. And and Werdum did this to this reporter where he just gave him like a thigh kick and it put the guy there, almost passed out from it. It was like a little too hard to do to a guy who's not a fighter.
Yeah. That's him.
And do you think, Travis, too, because after you and Ronda both train with Edmond, and he's caught a lot of criticism lately, do you think that some of it was fair, or do you think all of it was unfair, or how do you feel about that, or the way people are perceiving it?
Well, I can't tell you if it was all unfair or fair or anything, because I haven't heard all of it. I've only heard some things, and the things that I've heard is pretty unfair. And you get some of these guys that are prominent in the MMA community that hold some kind of like weight with the fans, and they go and they talk about things in a way that like an amateur would talk about. They just throw it out there. You know what I mean? Instead of like having a thought behind it, they're just throwing things out. And unfortunately, like he's an easy guy to not like because he just doesn't care what you think. You know what I mean? Like, there's some guys, some coaches or whatever that will say the right thing because it's the right thing to say. Like, he just says how he feels. These guys will say the right thing at the time, and then they'll go right backstage and be like, fuck that, and then they'll really say something different. Like, he just doesn't have a filter. You know what I mean? And some of the stuff that I've seen is just, it is what it is. I mean, he's, I don't think that he fully deserves it. I mean, show me a coach that hasn't lost, as a coach, that his athletes or her athletes haven't lost, and that get the same kind of reaction from the fans. Like, get the hell out of here. There isn't a single one.
Right. Yeah, you know what? Dana said that. Dana made a point. Dana said, look, man, nobody's harping on the guy when, Ronda for, destroying everybody in her path. Nobody's complaining about the guy. And then, there's a hiccup or, you lose a fight here or there. Next thing you know, the guy sucks. So, I mean, I definitely hear you with that. And personally, Edmond's not a douchey guy. I mean, I met the guy. I hung out with the guy before in Maine over by Dana's house. He was there. He had a fighter fighting. And he's a nice guy. I mean, I met him behind the scenes. He's always been cool to me. And we had pleasant conversations. And the thing is this. I think that he's very emotional with his fighters. Like he's very like when you get emotionally attached. And I know when I corner my guys, it's like, yo, I got my guy, and I keep it simple. It's like, I got my guy, you got your guy. We're meeting down at the flagpole. We're gonna you're in the trenches with your guy. Yeah. And like, I got shit after Silva broke his leg. I didn't know his leg was broke when he fought Weidman. And I remember when the fight just got done, I'm like, oh, it's done. All right, what happened? Broke it. Oh, good. Fuck him. I didn't see the thing in half. I got some stuff over that. So I understand what it's like being a coach and being very, emotionally invested in your fighters. You could come across a little harsh. I know I did in the past.
Well, that's your fucking dude. You know what I'm saying? Like Weidman is your freaking dude. And so when something like that happens, the fight gets called, you're like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're still riding that high, and even during the fight, I'm sure when shit isn't going right, you're like, no, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, fighting is an emotional thing, and especially when you invest yourself into that person that's in there fighting.
Yeah, what you don't want is somebody, and the fighter and the trainers and your team is your safety net, man. When you fall, they're the only ones there for you to catch you.
Yeah,
I've seen fighters, I've seen trainers. One guy comes in particular, and it made me sick. And he was with his guy, and we were in Manchester, and he went out there. And this guy used to fight. He's a former wrestler, and he fought in the UFC back in the day. I'm not going to put him on blast, but the guy, he went, his guy fought, the guy lost. He was the first guy back to the locker room, already throwing his guy under the bus. Oh, you can't show up like that, and you can't expect to win. And dude, the guy's complaining. I'm looking at Longo like, this guy's a fucking maggot. Like, you know what I mean? The guy's the guy. I was like, yeah, dude, that's and the guy was a nice guy that lost and he lost. The guy got caught. But it's like one of those things where I'm like, hey, dude, go talk somewhere else, man. I just ignored the guy. But I hear you, Travis, man.
Yeah, let me ask you, Travis, what's the difference? You were at Jackson Wink, and how is it different or better or different training with Edmond? What are the differences you find?
It's just different. Like at Jackson Wink, I really relied heavily on the training partners there to get work in. Like for instance, like some of the move I caught Alistair Overeem with, like John Jones taught me that. You know what I mean? I worked on that because John Jones. It's like there's certain things that I would pick up more from the training partners. And the coaches were there to coach, but it was more of like a team coaching aspect. And then I would have one of the kind of younger coaches. He would be the one holding pads for me like daily, and I would see Winklejohn, one like twice a week, and I would see Jackson like 2-3 times a week, and like same thing. You know what I mean? It'd be like I would get one-on-one time maybe twice a week with either of them, and predominantly I would be. I'd have another guy holding mitts, or, I would have to bring in, some guys to help me with the ground, like Ricky Lindell. When I was at Jackson's, I had Ricky Lindell coming out to work with me on the ground specifically on stuff. And so working with Edmond and working with Ricky, the way that it was different is I got a lot of one-on-one time, and some, I actually just told a story to a person I was just talking to, but Ricky Lindell just had state finals for his wrestling group, right? For his high school. So the kid that won the high school, like the state championships last year as a sophomore, defended it this year as a junior, and he lost, right? And he lost in a way where he just didn't show up to perform, like he was kind of in his head and all this kind of stuff. Well, this kid's 17, right? And he's learning this lesson at the age of 17, already being like having 4 or 5 years of wrestling in the books. Like I'm learning that same lesson at the age of 34 in front of millions of people on the biggest show in the world. And I've been in this sport for 8 years, 7 of them in the UFC. You know what I mean? And I went from nobody knowing me in 2010 to being ranked 3rd in the world in 2013. So it's like, I'm having my hiccups, but they're the lessons that some of these guys have learned 10 years ago. You know what I mean? And I'm learning them right now as being a ranked heavyweight. And so for me, the difference going from Alliance and and Jackson Winklejohn, and then to Edmond and Ricky, and then, you know, working with Edmond, Ricky, and Ray Sefo now, it's like, you know, I'm making adjustments in my camp. I'm figuring this stuff out as we go.